So welcome to the Humanities Funding Strategy interviews. Today we are talking with Rachel Wellhausen, and we're going to be asking her these questions as part of our series. So thank you for being here, Rachel. And the first question is, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm in the government department. I also have a courtesy appointment in McCombs, BGS, Business, Government, and Society, and affiliations with the CREASE Center, the Russia Eastern European Focus Center. And my subfield is called International Political Economy. So we focus on international politics or international relations around economics. So trade, investment, foreign investment, finance, financial crisis. So given my background in my previous book, where I focused on multinational corporations and their experiences in Ukraine and Russia and in the region, then times in the last year made it such that I really wanted to kind of maybe do something, I don't know, like on this topic, to the way that I, with my expertise, could do something around the current war.
Great, thank you. Yeah, can you please tell us a little bit more about your project?
Yeah, so through the NSF, they have these rapid grants, which if you have a kind of short-term, quicker need. And so my collaborator and I are working on, we called it Exiting Russia, but basically how firms are making decisions in times of war, and especially foreign firms. So this is a shock to every firm that had invested in Russia. Some are facing sanctions, actual legal sanctions that determine what they have to do. Others are facing pressure from their home governments to leave. Others are facing pressure from their home governments to stay. India, China, some Japanese companies. And so actually there's a lot of heterogeneous pressures on what firms are meant to do from a political point of view. And that's sort of the crux of the matter. Firms are profit-driven, private actors. And there's this phenomenon of economic statecraft that people talk about, the idea that governments can leverage economic ties for political benefits. But if you're trying to get private firms to accomplish your political goals, it's just sort of a tricky process. So what we're doing is we got rapid funding to put together a master list of what firms are doing in the first 6 months after the invasion on February 24th, Russia of Ukraine. And we, through the NSF, were able to afford a big database. So actually we have about 46,000 foreign-owned firms that are in Russia. And we're doing a lot of text analysis. So like reading of text, not just press releases, but also secondary reporting and sources to try and piece together as much as we can for as many of those firms, what's happening. And one reason I'm excited about this project is there are a lot of efforts, some spearheaded by academics, some private actors or NGOs, to put together lists of different sorts of what firms are doing, naming and shaming kinds of lists. And what we're doing instead is, as academics, putting together a publicly available resource. A lot of these other lists are kind of private. And we're not just looking at the apples of the world. So these lists that we've processed that other folks have been doing add up to maybe 3,000 or so firms that there's some documentation on what they've done, but that's a small sliver of the actual kind of breadth of small and medium enterprises and things that are kind of making decisions under times of war. So what's from a humanities perspective actually in the project, to think really deeply and in a nuanced way about how firms do or do not express opinions about conflict, how that kind of reluctance to say something is in itself a data point. And so what might otherwise be overlooked as firms that don't show up in the news, right? Meaning secondary news didn't find it, important to report on them because they didn't do anything in particular. Well, that's also important for us to capture, right? To firms that are, maybe their decision is to stay under the radar so they can keep doing business. And, normative concerns aside, we just want to document that. And then there's some core theories to understand that we would have predictions from some core theories about if and when such a situation would exist, what should happen. So unfortunately, now we have such a situation. And so we can put some theories to the test and hopefully develop some new theory as well.
Great, thank you so much. How you mentioned the NSF rapid mechanism. How did you locate and identify this NSF rapid mechanism for your work?
So it paid off over the years to keep up with kind of various alert type systems, the pivot system, and various like grant information emails, also watching what folks in my field more broadly had been getting. And so then, especially during the heat of the pandemic, I learned about the rapid grants because there were some being awarded around COVID. So I had kept those in the back of my mind. And then the official way to do the rapid grant is first you reach out to program administrators, and then they sort of give you approval to apply. I've served on some NSF related panels and things before, so I knew a little bit about the intricacies of like which administrator is the right one for our topic area. But had I not known that, I would have gone to colleagues who had gotten those rapid grants before at other universities to try and like suss out how it works in our specific field, the kind of information, the hidden curriculum sort of that you can't find from the website.
Great, thank you so much. I know your award is fairly recent, but what do you wish you had known before you received the award?
I wish I would have known that there could be how much support there is here for writing and editing very clean proposals. And along the way, I did find out more about how the administrative part, the budgeting and figuring out the overhead and all of that can really be taken off my shoulders. And this was collaborative with someone at Penn State. And so the UT and the Penn State side really facilitated that, not to minimize, but the paperwork, so we could focus on writing a good intellectual proposal. So I was worried at the outset, about handling all of that because I'm kind of new to this official grant proposal. So anyway, that was a happy thing I uncovered along the way.
Great. And to follow up, what were some of the you mentioned the front end writing of the proposal, and there's some resources for that. What kind of resources could you share that are available here at UT?
Yeah, so through COLA, there's kind of in my understanding, a suite of people who are employed and ready to help us. And so in my experience, I approached one person in the liberal arts COLA kind of focused office grants administrator, and they were able to help me understand everybody's official role and connected me. And so those kinds of unknown unknowns that I didn't know to ask, once I reached out to one person, the network uncovered itself, I guess. One thing, not with this grant, but with another that I was unsuccessful on, I wish I had known that the extent to which COLA people and there are resources to help edit and refine the text of the intellectual portion of the grant. I was, you know, it got down to the last minute, as these things do, unfortunately. And if I could go back in time, I would have looped in folks with editing experience rather than trying to do it myself, which that is not my my skill set. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So again, it's a newer award, but the question is, what were some unexpected hurdles and how did you overcome them?
One pretty specific hurdle is that core part of the award was to buy this database, and to get it into the details, Penn State was able to negotiate a better price than the UT side. So it went through Penn State, and then we had to get licensing, and then it all took about 6 weeks longer than we thought, yada, yada, yada. But I appreciated that I really understood what was going on. And then actually the administrators on both sides at both universities said, well, the thing to do would be to ask for a no cost extension, so we get those 6 weeks back, because it's a time delimited award. So that was helpful in, you know, we were worried, oh man, like we got this specific award and access to this expensive database, and now it's eating into our time. So that was nice to have people who are kind of preemptively thinking about that.
Great, thank you. What was or is your approach to project or team management?
Oh, I wish I knew. I work a lot. I've been trying to, I suppose everybody these days is trying to refine their systems and things. Practically speaking, since there's both Penn State faculty and graduate students involved, and then here there's me as faculty, graduate students, and undergrads. So we communicate on Slack and have regular standing meetings, and we sort of it was clean to break up the tasks into what each kind of university could focus on. But one nice overarching institution is this research lab that I'm involved with, Innovations for Peace and Development, where the lab has put together kind of resources to basically train RAs and provide them camaraderie and kind of good experience, bigger than what I could provide in a one-on-one only kind of relationship, and also kind of synergies between other projects that are also run through IPD. So in this space of peace, development, international relations, IPD looks for faculty who would like to kind of use their resources and integrate and like give more research opportunities to students. But there are also really neat labs of that sort springing up around liberal arts that focus on different topic areas. And so I think taking advantage of that infrastructure to help run the administrative part of the team is just very helpful.
Great, thank you so much. You went into this a little bit, but how was writing a grant proposal, or how is writing a grant proposal different from an article or a book or a monograph?
I mean, it seems straightforward to say, of course, you're not going to use jargon, but it's hard not to use jargon a little bit. And at one point, I realized we were trying to like populate the grant proposal with a little too much copy and paste from an academic kind of proposal that we had written. And so it worked better for us to kind of step back and rewrite from scratch. In this particular instance, I kind of have, like a lot of people, like personal feelings, happen to have ties to some of the regions and countries involved and things like that. So in this particular setting, it was a little emotional. So it was a funny experience to like have an emotional pull and then a too technical pull, and kind of like find this happy medium.
Great, thank you. Um, you went into this as well a little bit, but what input did you receive from colleagues or program officers?
So clarifying the budget was really, really helpful. I still don't think I could myself understand how the various kinds of overhead work. And frankly, even maybe this seems really obvious, but I didn't quite know whether the proper way to write a grant proposal is to ask for the exact dollar amount, or because I had the impression that sometimes you ask for more and then you say, well, obviously I need more. I don't know. I really didn't like know. And then it was also good to know, like, because most of the grant goes to paying undergrads for participation. And so how to write that out, and that there's more flexibility once you have, at least in this case, like money allocated for student salary. That's like, I didn't have to stress over exactly how many hours a week for exactly how many semesters, how many people, but I did have to know like how to allocate to that and not to travel or something like that. So those practicalities, and when I realized I should probably ask first before stressing about the budget. And honestly, a lot of it got really like worked out by the program officers. I know if I had been with another grant that I was unsuccessful with, if I had been able to do, life happened or whatever, but so we ran out of time at the end, but I know the program officer would have been helpful in rereading and editing the actual text of the grants better. Due to my own negligence or whatever, I missed out on that. But so for next time, I'll try and keep that in mind.
Great, thank you. And then final question, what advice would you give someone who is having trouble putting together a grant application?
I think, again, maybe this is a silly thing to say, but it's hard to apply for something when you don't know exactly why you're applying for it and exactly what the output is, or the intended output, I guess. And this one was relatively easier because we knew exactly we needed money to buy this expensive database, and we wanted to pay students to work. And we knew we had a clear vision that what academia should be doing is making a publicly available database on this stuff. So it was easy to write our goals. I think when I've tried before to see grants that look interesting and I could see myself fitting in them, if I know it's a dance, but the more you can come to a grant already knowing why that grant fits what you want, as opposed to kind of to chase a grant, I guess. That's sort of not just this, but in other kind of experiences, that's sort of been like a trade-off I've thought about. Does that make sense? You're nodding to, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, and it jives with what other people have said, sort of. Yeah, so it totally does. Let me ask you one more question as a follow-up. You talked about writing your grant with, I guess, your Penn State colleague. How did you manage that process?
It was a nice opportunity that this colleague who I've known for a long time, and we had, in the background, if and when it made sense, like it would be great to work together. We have complementary skills in this setting. He has a lot of experience in the computer science back end of getting together thousands of news articles and 46,000 firms, and like that's a lot of effort in different languages and things. And then I had the kind of regional substantive expertise on this. And then we're both in this topic area in our subfield. So that worked. And he's also had experience with writing NSF grants before. So that also helped, like he had some pre-prepared materials, which nicely, once you do it once, there's some stuff you can recycle. And he also had a good relationship with his grants administrator. So that was pretty seamless on his side to say, hey, CC his administrator, all right, we're going for this. So it was helpful that he did his homework too.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.